sitting on the beach one starless night in the spot where I always sat for meditation. It was near the fence that separated Camp Smith's Marine Base and Eva Beach Park. I'd already had my big aha moment for the day. Plugged into a podcast, I'd heard Deepak Chopra loud and clear. Let go of your personal history. All right, well, that's not how he said it, but that's how I needed to hear it, because he was right. I realized I clung to my past like a badge of honor and paraded it around, dare I say proudly, and fell apart with every justifiable excuse it gave me. When I'd sit to meditate, I'd listen to the waves. I'd turn into my breath, my heartbeat, my senses, my stillness. But with the stillness came the awareness of mind chatter and gobs of it. Thoughts I always assumed were in my control, I realized were no more my own pattern than that of my breath. Monkey mind, they call it. And as it turns out, mine was a loud, obnoxious, chubby little bastard who pegged things at me for sport. So as I sat there that night, I was trying to find my own peace. So I said a mantra to myself, not aloud, but just in my head. Peace, harmony, compassion, gratitude, joy, grace. And I said it over and over again until I found a rhythm with the tide. And as I sat there, that mantra became, let me let go. Let me let go. Let me let go. I don't know how many times I said it, but I sat there determined. All I knew is that I wanted to shed this skin and to drop this facade and to lift this weight off my shoulders finally after all these years. I had been there. I was the only witness. One day it was my mommy's little angel and my daddy's little darling, and the next day, I wasn't. He did it. I knew it. I was 5. I told them everything I knew. She was gone, and now he had to go away. And that was kindergarten. As I sat there that night letting go, I was brought back in memory to the kitchen table of my friend's dad's lake house. I was in Ohio on Lake Erie for the last of the summer, the weekend of the summer before we had to return to college. I was visiting a friend, Jess's family, for a reunion. And we were at the kitchen table because her free spirit Aunt Cheryl was reading my cards. Now, I was a big skeptic. Huge, but I figure you only vacation in a trailer park on Lake Erie for a loony family reunion once in your lifetime, right? So here we were, and with a warm, eager smile, she motioned for me to cut the deck. And then she took those piles in her hands and straightened the cards. Before turning the first card, though, she looked at me, and she smiled, and she said, "You have a funny grandma." And I half grinned because I loved my grandma. She had raised me, and she was my heart, and she indeed was funny, but I was no fool. Everybody's got a funny grandma. You're going to have to try way harder than that, I thought. She began turning these cards, each one with bright scenes and vibrant images. And just like that, I was mesmerized. I'd never seen a tarot deck. "You're an artist," she said. With such conviction, I almost cried. I'd always loved everything creative, but to be called an artist, I was sure it was the first. "But your greatest works," she said, "and you will create great works, are going to come out of a deep depression." And I could tell after she said it, she kind of regretted it, because then she started backpedaling a little bit, talking about Van Gogh and his ear and artists and depression. And I was just smiling and nodding because she had said artist and she had said greatest works, and I didn't care how it came or at what cost. I never really much liked my ears anyway. If that's all it took, I'd gladly sacrifice. I sat up straighter in my seat now. She'd had me an artist. She began describing these cards in such great detail, making references to my life, my past, my personality, my future, my dreams, like a childhood friend who somehow knew me better than me. But when she got to the last card in the row, She seemed to be more careful with this one. She took it in 2 hands and moved it closer to me. It was a dark card. It had the image of a silhouette of a child standing behind a gate with a big, heavy lock resting on its bars. She spoke softer now, like a mom, and made references to a possible difficult childhood I may have had, or maybe even a fear I might have always harbored. But then she leaned in and pointed to the card. "The gate is unlocked," she said. "All you have to do is open it." So that night on the beach, letting go, I was brought back to that conversation. And I was brought back to that card with that young, defenseless child standing behind those bars. And I heard Aunt Cheryl's voice. "All you have to do is open it." And I realized sitting there that I had let those bars comfort me for the past 25 years, but now not only did I have the strength, I had the determination to swing those doors open and step from behind those tall, thin shadows. Grief, guilt, shame, fear, pride, anger, jealousy, like 7 grouchy little doors picked up and stormed off. "Come on, guys, I guess the party's over." Yep. That was them, the motley crew I'd been kicking it with every time I threw one of my infamous pity parties. And I was sure there was more. In fact, I knew that greed, regret, failure, and envy had never missed a blowout, but they were gone too. Peace never felt so vast, so wide open. I never knew quiet to be this comforting. I was brought back to my body, my head bowed, my breath steady, the night still except for the undulating sea. And then out of nowhere, I couldn't believe it. I'd never heard it there before and never again thereafter, and I wouldn't have believed it myself had I not heard it with my 2 big ugly ears. A horn from the bass next door played taps, as if almost on cue. My head fell into my lap, my arms wrapped around my legs, and tears fell into a puddle of awe on my lap. And like a soldier who had been awarded a handsome medal, I followed orders. I laid it to rest, all of it.